Welcome to Cats and Rats Podcast, covering your Florida Panthers.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cats and Rats Podcast. This is episode number 19 here. I'm your host, Kirby Lupo, alongside my co-host, Cody Stevens and Nick Levine. Feeling a little down right now in Panthers Nation here, as the Panthers tried to sweep the Edmonton Oilers 4-0 north of the border here in Edmonton, but alas, the Florida Panthers were blown out 8-1. As a fan myself, I've experienced this in 1996. I think that's dating back to Game 2 versus the Colorado Avalanche. Obviously, the two blowouts against the Vegas Golden Knights last year in the Stanley Cup final in Game 2 and the closeout game in Game 5. I still haven't watched the last 7, 8, 9 minutes of that Game 5 against the Vegas Golden Knights because I was hosting our Twitter X Spaces after, and everyone at that point, when it was long gone, just wanted to start Spaces. So I haven't watched those last few minutes. Also, the handshake line. As a young boy growing up in Canada, I've watched all the handshake lines of the Stanley Cup winners. I haven't gone back and watched that one, but maybe on the eve of Game 5 here, I will use it for some reverse motivation. And the Panthers remember back to that moment last year. The good news is the Panthers have a couple more kicks at this can here to wrap this up, and nothing better than Game 5 here, back at home with their family, friends, loved ones in the building, where they had to go all the way up to Edmonton. And you guys know here, Nick, in Game 5, they don't want to lose Game 5 and have to go all the way back to Edmonton. So that's going to be some motivation from their wives, their loved ones, to get the job done on home ice, to hoist the Stanley Cup for first time in franchise history. So, Nick, you've been at these games. You've been at the virtual watch parties here in this final. What are your thoughts right now going into Game 5?
Well, the first two games, even the third game, but the atmosphere at the first two games were incredible. You could just sense walking up onto the Publix Plaza that it was a big night. It was a big occasion. You could just feel the energy. All the media people are there, all the social media influencers are there, NHL networks interviewing a bunch of people. So it was a really cool experience, and I can't imagine what it's going to be like because I'll be in the building for Game 5. I'm sure it's going to be especially ramped up with the cup in the building and on the line for the Florida Panthers, a chance to clinch it in Game 5. But yeah, there's been some negativity about the 8-1 loss.
We'll get into that later with our fan reaction.
Even though I went to that Game 4 watch party, which I don't think I'll be going to anymore after that one, but yeah, it's just been incredible feeling the buzz around South Florida. Just the incredible atmosphere, games that I'm going to remember for a lifetime, and sharing it with a bunch of different people. So many different people. It's been a fun time, and hopefully it gets a little bit more fun here in the upcoming next couple days. Yeah.
Nick says this now that he won't go to another watch party, but if necessary, there's a Game 6. I could definitely see Nick at that. I just want to preface this episode before I throw it over to my other co-host, Cody here. This is not going to be a deep hockey talk, chalk talk, breaking down things from Game 4. It's one of those games to burn the tape. So again, this episode is going to be a lot of emotion filled, a lot of feelings of what might be ahead here for our Florida Panthers, just so we have it on the record. And a lot of you might go back and listen to this episode over this summer or before next season when you find us as new fans to this team, if they reach their ultimate goal here and hoist their first ever Stanley Cup. So this is going to be a lot of emotion filled, a lot of things. Like, we could have recorded this 2 nights ago and still had these type of feelings. Like, this has gone on over this whole entire weekend, from the start of the weekend through the end of the weekend here, Cody, and then into the new week here. So what are your feelings and thoughts here going into this pivotal Game 5?
Pure confidence.
I'm with you.
Just pure confidence. And if this is for the future me or the future viewer who may listen back to this, I don't care what happens in Games 5 through 7. I care, but the reason I don't care is I'm going down with the ship either way. I'm either floating it to the ultimate paradise, the ultimate goal, where I'm sink it to the depths of pain that we may never even want to feel again. But either way, your confidence is what my take is going to be here. Just
Yep.
what this team has shown me these last 2 seasons, because it's virtually the same team from last year. Just a couple new additions that have kind of tweaked and given us more depth. But you can't name me a time where the Panthers got blown out like that and didn't respond. You couldn't name me a time. You could probably name me times like, oh, what about 4 years ago? Nope, this ain't 4 years ago. You may be experiencing nervousness because we've never, as Panther fans, have had this thrill to be so close to a championship before in any of our lives. I don't care if you were here from the start or here yesterday. No one has felt this. No one has experienced this. This is why I think some people are antsy.
And even fans that you are, Cody, like of the Miami Dolphins, some of the local college football teams that haven't won in your lifetime or their lifetime, haven't experienced this.
Yeah, I mean, closest thing people have felt were the Miami Heat, and I mean, both times it came up short. I mean, I don't think in any part of those series they had a lead in any of those. So this is the closest South Florida has been to a championship since 2013, which was the last time a Miami sports team has won.
Yeah, and then going back to the Marlins even further back, some people don't follow baseball. They don't track it all year. It's not their sport. So again, right?
But Miami Dolphins haven't won a Super Bowl since 1973. They haven't made a Super Bowl since, I believe, 1984. Haven't won a playoff game in 24 years. The Marlins haven't won a World Series since 2003, let alone they have never won their division in their entire existence. The Heat haven't won a championship since 2013. They've probably experienced the most success out of any team since that period, but now it's the Panthers' turn.
And Cody, like for myself and Nick that aren't traditional South Florida sports fans outside of our number one team, the Florida Panthers, Nick and I haven't experienced a world title, a championship from any of our teams that we cheer for.
It's about time, please.
It's about time.
Please,
so you ones out
done.
there that we haven't talked to, myself and Nick that haven't talked to, and they're listening to this podcast and you find us, like, just know our pain if that is your pain too. And we feel and empathize with you. Now, Cody on the other side of the coin.
He's had a great night, you know.
He's had a great night.
Grand old time.
We're recording a little later into the evening because of the NBA championship and the Boston Celtics. Cody became a fan of the Celtics because of his dad growing up. So again, congratulations to Cody. I know a lot of us don't like the Celtics that are Heat fans. I grew up as a Pacer fan. I don't follow the sport as much anymore because of all this thing I'm doing content wise now. And the NBA's kind of turned me off from how the system has changed from defense and paint play, post play. But I was following these NBA playoffs fairly closely because of my co-host here, Cody. So shout out, Cody, enjoying this championship. You might have 2 championships in the next 24. Remarkable.
I mean, what can you say? I'm pumped up for it.
I'm waiting for one. This dude might get 2 in freaking 24 hours. This is kind of...
This is uncharted territory.
That's a lot of money that's a lot of Cody putting
this is uncharted territory for me because I mean the Celtics, they made the NBA finals, they lost. Same way the Panthers did, got there finally, but just didn't have the experience or the depth to get over the hump. But I mean, with that being said, I mean, the Celtics are my favorite team, love them to death, but I would let the Celtics lose every game for the next 5 years for a Panthers Stanley Cup. That's how much the Panthers mean to me.
I just want to add this. You said favorite team. I just want to clarify this. Your favorite sports team is the Miami Dolphins. Mine and Nick's is the Florida Panthers, but the Panthers are your 1B. I never knew that from Cody because, like, to me, Cody is a puckhead. He reminds me of someone in Canada, as that's where I reside, as most of you know that. It's because your loyalty goes further back.
Yeah, it's just the Dolphins were my first team ever. That's sort of my love of sports started, and football was always the first sport that came to me. And there will always be, and unfortunately, like for me, that'll always be the 1A because that was the first thing. Because my dad was a football coach for me growing up, so it's a little bit different. But I'm the only one in my family that really has loved hockey. And
when it's like your third or fourth team, I'm not trying to speak for you, Cody, but it's like it's a lot more freedom to like kind of enjoy it and not be so stressed. But when it's number one team, like your doll last year, the Panthers this year, obviously, like Cody, I put in that because all of this content and the things that you do is producing content for the Florida Panthers. It's a different feeling. Like if it's my third or fourth sports team, I'm like, I'm nervous, I'm excited, but like this is the team that like I've followed for the longest. And it's just like it gets you, man. And it's everyone else in the community too, Cody, that know you for that are messaging me. Like I'm Kirby, I think we're gonna get this. Just like Titans, even more. Family and friends know that, right?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I've watched every Panther game since 2008, 2009 season. That's when I saw, David Booths, Nathan Horton, Stephen Weiss era. My first player was Jay Bouwmeester, even though we traded him like 3 days after. He was my favorite player, and I didn't understand at the time why we traded him, and now I do. I
got into argument about Alberta radio DJs with the Jay Bouwmeester thing, trying to spit facts at them that they didn't want to hear. You guys all know that with Edmonton fans now, which we're going to get into here.
Yeah, but going into this Game 5, which I think is going to be the greatest moment in Florida Panthers history. Like the emotion you feel, I feel it in like the whole area. I feel it within our community every night on Spaces. Like I feel the hunger, I feel the want, and I think tomorrow is going to finally get over the hump. Game 5.
Cody, you're kind of leading me into a segment that I was going to do later, but let's get into it now. We'll save the Edmonton perspective and narrative if you guys have anything to share on that. I sent out a tweet really late tonight as of this recording that I asked our community, how are you feeling on the eve of Game 5? The best comments will be read. I'll read pretty much all of them here. Rosanna, one of our loyal Spaces listeners and speakers, says she's feeling optimistic, a little nerves to be expected, but we know how well our Cats bounce back after bad games. Great point. I agree with you totally there, Rosanna. Need to have a strong first and set the tone right away and get to our style of play. If we can do that early, I think we should be fine. Make Skinner work his off. I can't say that word on the podcast here. If you join us for Twitter X Spaces, we can let the language fly a little bit there. Bailey says here, she says, confident that this team will get it done tomorrow night. They have proved it all year that winning big games is their thing. Should be another crazy crowd at the bank, ready to see something special. Tori, shout out here. Tori's a great member of our community, especially behind the scenes. A lot of support, always listening to our podcast. Appreciate that, Tori. She says, feel like we are getting a new set of wheels. Can't wait to listen tomorrow at the tailgate to your guys' podcast so we can get super pumped. I appreciate that, Tori, a lot. Jeremy, one of our loyal listeners in our post game. The boys have proved they can bounce back after a rough game. Defensively, we were bad in Game 4. I want to talk about Nick about that with our gap control maybe before we get off the air here tonight. Getting burnt on stretch passes, giving up odd man rushes, missed assignments, etc. It's uncharacteristic for not only the playoffs but the whole season. DAVIE says, I've never felt this much anticipation in my life with the Panthers, but it's all positive. I really believe this is the team's destiny tomorrow night, i.e. today if you're listening to this. I don't know how it will happen, but I truly believe 30 years of Cats hockey ends in the ultimate glory tomorrow night. Tom Connolly, formerly from overseas in the United Kingdom, now living in Florida via New York, tells us, feeling confident, got every faith in Maurice, nickel like that, and the coaching staff to get Game 4 out of their head. Only thought is, does he bring in Lomberg or Cousins, or does he keep it the same? It's looking like Lomberg right now, right, guys?
Steven Lorenz and Nick Cousins were filling in for Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk, who missed the morning skate, and Brian Lomberg was on the normal left wings spot on the fourth line in place of Steven Lorenz. And I just wanted to say one thing to all of the fans: enjoy the moment, savor the moment, because this is as good as it gets. It doesn't get better than this if you're a sports fan, right? So just enjoy this moment and savor it. And I've said this line plenty of times. I trust Maurice and our personnel. I trust our coaching staff and our personnel that they're going to make the needed adjustments to get it done. I'm very confident, but also just savoring the moment. Like, I'm going to get there early for Game 5. I'm ready to go.
I'm going to get to a few more here, guys. Jamie, I always love Jamie's comments. We love it. He's like, I called this shot. Jamie, I called a potential blowout in Game 4. And into game 5 here a little bit later. So my predictions have been on. We always try to find Jamie's receipts. We have a fun little segment with him in our post game during the regular season if you ever tune in. Jamie says, fantastic. Everything is going according to plan. That sounds like Jamie to a T there. Jack Powell, Panther fan in Massachusetts, says completely expecting a win.
That one.
Completely expecting a win. Edmonton will have a difficult time replicating game 4 performance. Exactly what I said in our post game. Florida will be ready,
sure.
Right?
It's hard to replicate that desperation.
I mean, it's like you're expecting McDavid and Draisaitl per usual, but the depths I don't think are gonna bring that again. Like Janmark was a beast in that game. He was the reason why they won. It wasn't McDavid or Draisaitl, it was Matthias Janmark. Stuart Skinner made some big saves after he had a 5-goal lead. Just and once again, it's just like, oh, can the Panthers come back? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, wait, like the same thing happened in game 4 against Tampa. Guess what? They came back in the next day and won 6-1 in game 5 at home.
I'm going to get to the two pessimistic Panther fans here very shortly. That will lead into our Edmonton segment. A couple more positive ones here. A food analogy one from Orlando Magic Guru. First time he's ever kind of tweeted at me on Twitter from my recollection. He says, well, sir, I feel like a slice of butter melting on top of a big old pile of flapjacks. I said, food analogy. Okay, here we go.
Didn't pick steak?
No, he didn't pick the steak. That might be more up Nick's alley there.
Tell him to pick the steak next time.
Tyrion says, watching the Boston NBA game to see their response for reference to their championship victory. Boston came out on fire. Good teams figure it out fast. I'm feeling much better after watching that. I got a lot of messages on that, Cody, right after the Celtics championship win.
Coming from a guy that has watched the Celtics all year and the Panthers simultaneously this year, I feel the Panthers are better than the Celtics because I think mentally they don't get as rattled. Like, the Celtics had to make some huge additions in the offseason to get to this point. The Panthers haven't really had to do that. And I think they're more well-equipped. They're ready to go.
More experienced head coaching, Panthers do over the Celtics. There's certain things and elements there, and in Zito we trust. Now to a couple of the pessimistic negative comments before we get into some Oilers chat here. I'm not even going to mention these two gentlemen's names. They've been in my mentions all week. I've been negative all month. One of them says dread, and the other one says disappointed and prepared for an even bigger disappointment. So thank you for everyone reaching out there in the comments. I posted that really late. Appreciate all the feedback there. So guys, where do you want to take this with Edmonton? Their newfound optimism, the narrative and spin from the media. Sarah Nurse, Darnell Nurse's cousin, she's driving me up a wall. The Shania Twain bump they got there from the pre-game concert, celebrating there. The Spitting Chicklets guys, Jesse Pollock saying, if Edmonton wins game 5, they're taking this series. So I don't know what you guys saw out there, things that you saw out there that you're a little worried about, or you're not putting much thought into it.
Just like everything that happened was just so uncharacteristic from Florida. Like, there was a lot of times because when Florida's at their best, when their defensive system's at their best, they have 4 guys above the puck. In game 4, at most, they maybe had 2 or 3 the entire game. And once again, and I've said this on Spaces, and I'll say it again here. I don't care if you have the first lines, Matthews, McDavid, I don't know, throw a winger there, Pasternak got there. I don't care who it is. If the other team is desperate and has nothing to lose, you will never match that energy. It won't happen. Because they're going to be willing to do more things to get a place than you are at that time, because you have something to lose. They don't. But mainly it's just getting back to what got us here in the first place. I don't think Edmonton figured this out. I don't think we played good at all. I really don't. And if there's one thing I could take from game 4, maybe it's I guess that we need more from the second line here. The second line's been absolutely invisible this series. absolutely invisible, except for like Sam Bennett, who made that play in game 2, in game 3. Or was it game? No, it was game 1. I'm sorry. It was game 1.
Nice goal there in game 3.
Yeah.
It seems like Kachuk kind of contributed to a bit.
Yeah, like that goal, that give and go goal. But besides that, they've really shown nothing. I think that line's been quiet ever since Erod got switched. Erod and Verhaeghe got switched.
Good. Yeah, good point.
Like, because Erod's been a monster in the last 2 rounds, or even 3 rounds if you want to count Boston.
It's surprising as the series has gone, as these series has gone, Verhaeghe's been less impactful, I guess you could say, big moments. So you always know like he's got that in his back pocket. We've seen that with Reinhart where he's gone quiet and then bang, he's got big moments where you haven't seen much Verhaeghe.
Yeah, I think Reinhart's in the Barkov boat where they're trying so hard to shut down McDavid and or Draisaitl, whoever's on the ice.
Yeah, true.
And they've done a great job at that 5-on-5. Like McDavid got that goal last game or broke the assist record, but I don't
Which
care.
is an incredible record there.
But Nick?
Yeah, I mean,
anything to add on the Edmonton front or what you saw from the
Panthers? I'll start with what Cody said on Matthew Tkachuk. It's kind of been a theme throughout this playoffs. He had a really good round 1 versus Tampa Bay, and then ever since then, like I would consider how he played in the Boston series like poor, like a relatively poor performance against Boston. Was excellent in game 1 against New York, and then ever since then really hasn't been that big of a factor. Now I know people can pull up the analytics all they want. We know the Matthew Tkachuk that everybody thinks of, right? The same Matthew Tkachuk we saw last year in the regular season and in the playoffs. He hasn't been that same Matthew Tkachuk, right? He just hasn't. Now again, necessarily bad, maybe not, but throughout the whole way, but he hasn't been as impactful as you might need him to be. Like Alexander Barkov has been, and we're fortunate that guys like Evan Rodriguez, Anton Lundell, Tarasenko, and Luostarinen, and Sam Bennett have really stepped their games up, and it's just been a much more complete effort.
Yeah. Two of my pet peeves. You have something there, Nick?
Yeah, on the Edmonton front, I don't really know how you could expect anything different. I guess they win a game and it's like, oh, like hooray, like kind of like what we saw against the Dallas Stars. Like one week they're talking about buying out Darnell Nurse's contract. Next week they're saying this guy's great, like we're set. Like so it really is like an emotion based, and I get it. Most fans are, and media is. That's their job, right? So I wouldn't buy too much into what they say. Again, I think that you could watch that game and be like, Florida's not going to be that bad again. Like that's just Edmonton's a good team. I said this on our post game Twitter spaces, right? Like they got to the Stanley Cup final too, So they got through 3 rounds to get here too. So they're a really good team, a really talented team who's very desperate, and we did not play particularly great, especially in that second period, and it cost us, So I wouldn't put too much stake into what they're saying. Is we know our group. We Panther fans, and especially the coaches and everybody who pays attention to the Panthers, they know the resiliency of this group better than whatever people in Edmonton or Canada are saying.
I was just saying, a couple of my pet peeves really aren't on the on ice product or with this team. It's it's on social media and things that you're seeing out there from our own fan base. And one of them is always when Kachuk's not playing well, and I get it in my DMs, but I also see it in my mentions and I see it with other people interacting. It's like, well, maybe Matthew Tkachuk is hurt. Maybe he needs to have surgery. And it's like it's always the default mechanism from the fan base when he's not playing well. And I just feel it's like excuse baked, what have you. I'm like, maybe he has to have something done in the offseason. But if it's not major surgery or something like that, then I don't really want to hear it now. I don't want to hear it later. I just want him to play better. He's out there on the ice, Cody. You know what I mean?
It's more of a pet peeve. It's not really the excuse that gets it. It's because he's the only one that gets it. Like early in the year, like when he started off slow, it was the same thing. And like when Barkov has a slow week or whatever, and he doesn't get that excuse. Ekblad sure as heck doesn't get that excuse either.
No. And he's the one that's most injury prone.
Ekblad played with a broken foot, torn shoulder, like torn oblique, whatever it was, and I didn't hear one time in spaces or on Twitter say, "Oh man, Ekblad may be hurt here." Like,
it's that there's no empathy. It's the empathy part. It's the empathy card that gets pulled for Tkachuk. And the new shiny toy, what Tkachuk did last year for the organization, carrying the team on the back a lot of that season and playoffs.
Which rightfully so.
But that shouldn't carry over into the next season and the next season, because we can go back and look at guys that had franchise years last year or 2-3 years ago in Ekblad's case. So again, I don't like that's a pet peeve of mine. And the other pet peeve is, I don't know if you guys want to add more on that front, is when our media like Jameson Olive, Katie Engelson tweets out our lineup, and it's not even game day, it's like the day or two before, and it's like they don't mention that, like, oh, Tkachuk isn't, they say Kachuk's not skating today or Barkov's not skating. I get the Bennett part because he did take that knee on knee from Nurse there, but let's just use Tkachuk or Barkov for this example. And fans will automatically reply back, is he okay? Is he hurt? Is everything all right? If you played a drinking game and you use those parameters, you would be blackout drunk. Like, it's just so much. It's such a pet peeve of mine. It just bothers me so much. It's
because
like,
it just causes unnecessary panic.
And it also gives off a casual vibe that we don't know what's going on with our team from the game. Like, there shouldn't be anything wrong with Tkachuk or Barkov, and they always have to emphasize in a tweet below, and they always respond back to those people. I would love our media and journalists to respond back to like deep hockey things instead of being like, oh, is this guy hurt? Is he okay? Is everything all right? And then they actually respond back to the person. It's just such a waste of air and like unneeded like anxiety. And I get what they're doing on their side from their job perspective, but fans, please be better.
I mean,
listen.
But just causes unnecessary.
I had to say that. I had to tweet about it today. People loved it.
Like with the Barkov one, I think like before game 3, people were like worried, like, is Barkov out for the rest of the series or whatever?
Yeah. So
moving on.
I don't know. Moving on, Nick, if you have anything to add there, we're gonna kind of wrap here with some predictions that Nick might not want to be part of. But Nick, anything on that front?
Yeah, no. I again, like the Bennett part, I agree with you. Took that hit, but and we know how everybody's playing with injuries this time of year, and we know people are scheduled off days. So,
and they're not. The media's not going to tell you. The team's not going to tell you.
No.
So why you ask? What do you ask?
Shouldn't, instead of like. Again, like, why? If you were the coach, would you tell everybody, like, oh, this guy's got
random Billy H and Del Boca Vista and Mary in West Palm Beach? Like, what are they going to tell you? Like, you know what I mean?
They're not. Yeah, exactly. Like, no offense, I don't think Paul Maurice cares about the Panther fans when it comes to releasing information about.
Yeah, I don't think Paul Maurice is listening to our spaces post game. So
listen,
just relax.
Hockey.
I know we went viral a little bit.
He also said Eetu Luostarinen was on track to play Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final last year.
A broken damn leg.
And then he said,
"Oh, he gets out of the bus. He gets out of the bus and can barely walk." I'm like, this ain't good.
It's just hockey's the worst sport when it comes to injuries. You don't get a thing.
Yeah, like, it's just, and that's where people panic, right?
It's just upper body, lower body. At least football, you tell me, okay, sprained it. Okay, that's 3 weeks. Like hockey's like upper body, lower body. You're just playing the damn guessing game. It drives me nuts because we do it every year because we have a bunch of injury-prone guys on this team. Bennett has like the one every year. So does Ekblad. Ekblad has the 3 every year.
Barkov with flu and
oh my god, the yearly Barkov's like sickness or random injury that keeps him out 1 to 2 weeks. Like it's just
and then the way that we play and the way that Paul Maurice wants us to play is a very aggressive, hard style that is going to grind you down a bit. Which fans wanted to get rid of him last year because of that. Because they said we're not going to have anything left in the playoffs, Cody, because Paul Maurice's system grinds you down and you got nothing left in winning time. Well, that's been disproven. So
it's just that's why you need depth.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, before we wrap up here, predictions, Game 5. I said there was a potential for a blowout in Game 4. I'm going to go with Game 5, 3-2 overtime win for the Panthers. I feel, or regulation, but potential overtime. So everyone relax. We haven't had a lot of those. Carter Verhaeghe.
Kirby, are you trying to
Carter Verhaeghe or Sam Reinhart with the game-winning goal? So
Kirby, are you trying to kill me here?
Well, I felt this for the last.
If this goes to overtime, Nick's gonna call
Kirby. I'm not going to be able to sit in my seat.
And the long shot, Ryan Lomberg scores in overtime, throws his gloves, sticks up into the air, laundry in the air. Man, that would be a moment. Everyone would be like, extend Ryan Lomberg for 6 years.
My prediction, like Nick's not going to make one. He's already.
You ain't getting a prediction out of me. You ain't. You're not.
For me,
So, Cody, go ahead.
this ain't going overtime. This is I'm feeling 4-1-5-2.
Ooh. I like
And,
it.
and this isn't like a 4-1 like dominant form. This is like a 2-1, 3-1 with an empty netter.
So you don't feel Connor McDavid and Draisaitl the way they're feeling right now, all their stars getting on the
No.
board here, that they're going to drive this game to the depths of like zeros on the clock, like right to the end. Okay.
It's not them, it's their depth, and I don't think they can do it for 2 games in a row. They sure as heck can't do it for 3 games in a row. Like, you're going to tell me that, Matt Matias, Mark is going to get two assists or a goal and assist in the first half of the game again? No, that's not happening.
But they're going to have double shifting going on. Like, they're going to empty the gas tanks completely. And that's where you see 1-goal games, Cody, in these closeout games. Go back to Boston, Chicago. It wasn't LA Rangers one, where these games were like 1 in 5, 6 games. What? It comes right down to the end.
And guess what? What happened when Tampa double shifted? Game over. Panthers got an insurance goal. Guess what? They win the series. What happened to the Rangers? They started double shifting their guys. Guess what? Tarasenko gets the insurance goal. And guess what? Panthers win. And I feel the exact same way. Because the minute they stack Leon and Connor, because here's the thing. Here's something that no pundit has talked about. Not one. Is when Leon, Draisaitl, and Connor McDavid have been on the ice in this series, they have been dominated by whatever line's been out there for Florida. They have not scored 1 goal together on the ice besides the 5-on-3 power play. Have not.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Anything else on that front, Cody? Nick's not going to say too much.
I'm just feeling confident.
I think either the Edmonton Oilers or Florida Panthers are going to win tomorrow for Game 5. Okay. That's my prediction.
You sound like my dad, the team that scores the most goals.
You don't think Steve Scazzari is going to win tomorrow?
I'm not saying anything.
Not go with the Zebras. Not go with the Zebras.
All I'm going to say is tomorrow on Game 5 on Spaces.
Yep.
There should be lots of tears.
Yeah. 2 more things. Conn Smythe, I think it's very close between Bob and Barkov. I don't want to not give it to. It's a high tomorrow that Barkov's favor more, but I think those are the 2 distant 3rd and 4th, or like the Gustav Forslings, Connor McDavid's. I think it's coming down to Bob 1A, Barkov 1B. That's what I've been saying all week. No, it's not incorrect. There's polls out there showing that.
Look, I'm tired of this here. The Conn Smythe is playoff MVP.
Correct.
Playoff.
Bob's numbers have got better progressively.
Not cup final MVP. Not
correct.
If that's the case, then it's Alexander Barkov.
You think it's by 60, 70%? Are you saying unanimous?
No, I think Bob's made it close, but I still some voters will vote Bob because he sold Game 1 that they won the cup. But if you watched every series, Bob was he was good. He's been good in every series. He's made the saves he's had to. But Tampa, they really didn't. They challenged him maybe 1, 2, 3 times a game, really?
I thought he was pretty good in Tampa series. I know the numbers weren't there, but
he was good in Tampa series. I've seen him. I thought
there's times he'll do old Vassy. And if there was something wrong with him in that Game 4, it totally makes sense to me. It was never reported. And the Edmonton game, he didn't have any help in front of him.
Look, same thing with the Tampa game. They had breakaways. They had everything. It's just Barkov has been there every single series. Every series he's been the best skater for Florida. And
I'm not denying that.
And that's why, you could say Bob's numbers have gotten better, but Barkov's numbers haven't dipped all postseason.
And I'm also talking what I've seen from the voters and what I've heard as well. That's why. And again, this is close. 52, 55, 58% where I'm leaning Bob. That Game 4 made it a lot more interesting. Where they didn't cement Bob in there. So yeah, I don't know. Me and Cody kind of agree to disagree there. Guys, we don't have a lot of time left here on this episode, but who's going to hand the cup off to who? I'm just going to say it now. Barkov. Who would he hand it off to? Ekblad, Oposo, Kachuk, Ekblad. These are the names that I'm kind of thinking. And you're going to see guys like OEL, Kulikov, those type of guys that have been around a long time. that haven't hoisted the cup. The Luongo one is an interesting wild card. He held it till the end with the management team. But yeah, I'm starting to think about those things. Maybe some of you guys aren't out there in Pantherland, but I'm starting to think about that. So I just wanted to put
if
that
they
on
do
the record
win,
quick.
it's bark off the Ekblad.
You're putting that down with
Yes,
certainty.
because they're the most.
Not even opposed, so if he's retiring or anything like that.
Opposed was probably like 3 to 5, but I think
Okay.
in terms of the Florida Panthers, I think the second guy should be Aaron Ekblad.
Okay. Man, I don't know where I'm leaning there. Nick?
He ain't doing it.
Again, I'm not doing it, Kirby. You're not going to get it out of me. So,
Now, no, Nick told me this off air. I'm going to say it to everyone. We got to go here. But he said maybe Bob very early on, and then Bob signals over Luongo.
there
And
we go.
everyone starts the Lou
There we
chants.
go.
And they push him over there. He doesn't want to do it, but they push him. If they do that with Maurice, he's going to wait till the end. But there is that 10, 20, 30% chance that those Lou chants could get him over there really early. Luongo had the heartbreak in Vancouver, Game 7. He had a couple cracks at it to win, and they weren't able to come away with Lord Stanley. But I want to thank you guys here today, Cody and Nick. As always, we'll be back. Could be back very shortly here for another episode celebrating Lord Stanley for first time in franchise history. Before we go, I just want to let everyone know from our sponsor, Caneswear, Panthers Fever is here. Are you geared up? Caneswear and Davies is a place for all your Florida Panthers needs. They have the latest gear for our favorite NHL team. Jerseys, polos, t-shirts, maybe more t-shirts coming soon here. Hoodies, hats, and more. Caneswear has you covered. Stop by their store in Davie or at pantherswear.com. Again, that's pantherswear, WEAR.com for all your Panthers gear. And on the way out, as we always say, let's go Cats.